The recruiter's office in Warsaw smelled like cheap coffee and gun oil when he slid that brochure across the table. "Legion International needs men with your skills," he said in that practiced tone they must teach all defense contractors. 6 weeks later, I learned the difference between needing someone and caring what happens to them.
I was crouched in a sewage-filled trench outside Bakhmut, the kind where the mud sucks at your boots like it's trying to claim you. My American-made plates dug into my collarbones under the ill-fitting Ukrainian uniform. That's when the world exploded. First came the whistling, that unnatural pitch between a teketl and a falling bomb. Then the impacts close to close. Dirt rained down as my spotter, this baby-faced kid from Kharkov who still wrote his mom daily, screamed,
"Orcs in the tree line! Orcs in the tree line! Orcs in the tree line!"
in a voice 3 octaves too high. The concussion hit like God's own punch. I remember flying, remember the taste of copper and soil. Then ... nothing. In a voice 3 octaves too high. Waking came in fragments, sound a wet of a pistol's slide being worked near my ear, smell gasoline and vomit, theirs or mine. Touch coarse fabric against my face, burlap maybe. Taste blood, and something chemical beneath its sight. Just shadows moving behind a flashlight's glare. A boot rolled me onto my back. The muzzle of a Makarov pistol kissed my temple. I knew the shape from training. A voice growled in thickly accented English.
"American volunteer." The way he said it made my stomach drop lower than the mortar blast had thrown me.
Behind him I heard the rhythmic beep of what sounded like a medical monitor. Later I'd learned that was the metal detector they used to find implants. At the time, all I could think was, that's not standard frontline equipment. They came prepared to take prisoners. The Russians didn't speak at first. Just the sounds of them moving around me in that freezing concrete room. Metal calipers snapping open near my right ear. Cold steel pinching the pads of my trigger finger. Then a grunt, the kind mechanics make when they find the problem. A UV light buzzed to life. I could feel its heat moving across my skin before I saw the purple glow through my blindfold. It stopped at my shoulder. Ah, just that one word. Then the sound of a book flipping open, pages rustling like dead leaves. A finger tapped twice on paper. 75th range of the voice sounded like he'd just won a poker hand. Something wet splattered on my chest. When I flinched, he laughed. "Not your blood." The metallic smell told me that was probably a lie. For 63 days, the rhythm never changed. The hungry days, just the drip of a leaky pipe in my stomach growling. Sometimes they'd play American pop songs down the hall, always cutting off before the chorus. The needle days, that distinctive snap of an ampule breaking. The burn in my arm before the world went soft at the edges. They'd ask the same questions each time.
2. Who trained you in Poland? What weapons did the Legion get last shipment?
My tongue would feel thick, but I always remembered. Give them dead men's names. The bargaining days. A new sound, a digital recorder clicking on my mother's voice from a Christmas call 2 years ago. Then the offer 3 living names and you can go home to her. I gave them Mikhailo, Anton, and Daniel. The kid who'd screamed about orcs. The medic who'd shared his last cigarette. The sergeant who'd promised to get us all home. Their bodies were still in that trench, but the Russians didn't need to know. That the worst sound. The pen scratching in their notebook after each answer, like they were grading a test I was failing. The bus engine cut out with a shudder that ran through my bones. Through the fogged window I could see the Ukrainian flag hanging limp in the rain. Salvation. The doors hissed open. No cheers, no medics. Just 2 SBU officers in those familiar blue armbands stepping forward. Their gloved hands didn't reach to help me down. They grabbed my wrists and pressed cotton swabs into my palms. The younger one muttered GSR test to his partner as he scraped under my fingernails. The plastic stick snapped in his grip. They marched me past the other freed prisoners, all Ukrainians being hugged, given water. I caught the whispers.
"Birkenet's whole squad gone, but him smell that. They doped him."
The interrogation room was worse than the Russian one. At least the Russians didn't pretend to be civilized. Here the stench of bleach fought with stale smoke. A dossier slapped onto the metal table. I'd know that sound anywhere after 63 days. Interesting. The captain didn't look up as he flipped pages. His lighter clicked once, twice, before catching 7 headshots. 7. His finger tapped a crime scene photo. Clean, professional. Yet you, he finally looked at me, blowing smoke through his nose. Not a scratch. My voice cracked trying to explain. The screech of his chair drowned me out. That particular metal-on-concrete scream every prisoner comes to fear. "We have a name for your kind in Donetsk." He leaned down, his cigarette bobbing near my face. "Teeny Mertvetsev, ghost recruits." The way he said it made my stomach drop lower than any Russian torture had. Outside, someone laughed. A normal sound, a human sound. It made the whole room feel even colder. The cell door clanged shut with that particular hollow boom only Soviet-era steel makes. My fingers traced the messages left by those who came before. Scritch, scritch, scritch nails. Or maybe a coin had carved "I didn't talk" near the ceiling. The letters shook halfway through like the writer's hand had started failing. Beneath the thin cot mattress someone had dug deeper. Tell them about the shipment. The grooves still held flakes of rust or maybe dried blood. The metal frame showed where they'd kicked it in frustration, the dents forming a perfect bootprint. Every morning at 6:17 exactly, the slot would clank open. Same two questions in the same tired voice. Why you? Why did Moscow want you alive when your whole unit got bullet souvenirs? Then the forest question, always with that little pause before forest, like they were testing if I'd react to the word itself. On day 19, the sounds changed. The interrogator's shoes clicked differently, dress shoes, not boots. He carried something that beeped. Laptop opened with that distinctive Windows chime dot. My own Facebook profile glowed on the screen.
July 12, 2022. He read aloud. Hey sis, the blue flowers here remind me of Texas.
His finger tapped the screen.
We have satellite confirmation Russian forces were moving blue-coated ammunition crates through that exact sector that week. The chair creaked as he leaned forward. What really grew in those fields, Mr. Ranger?
Outside, a guard coughed. Just an ordinary, human sound. It made the silence afterwards even worse. The immigration officer at Dulles barely looked up from his desk when he slid my passport back across the counter. The stamp came down with a wet thwack, the sound of a judge's gavel.
Welcome home, Mr. Dawson.
He didn't say what we both saw in that purple ink, deported security wrists curling at the edges where the ink bled. Back in San Antonio, the VA waiting room always smells like stale coffee and industrial cleaner. My therapist's pen scratches across her notepad as I described the Russian interrogation methods, the calipers, the UV lights, the way they'd play. My mother's recorded voice. But when I mention the Ukrainian questions, the scratching stops. That silence is worse than any torture. I can hear her holding her breath for 3 heartbeats before her chair creaks and she changes the subject. Last month, the Defense Department sent a liaison. Dress shoes clicking on linoleum, the snick of a briefcase opening. About your case files, his voice dropped when he said the word classified, like he was sharing a secret. The phone line made that weird digital warble, the kind you hear in movies when someone's being recorded. Now I lie awake at 3 a.m. whispering names that don't exist. Ivan Sergeyevich Petrov, Dmitry Alexeyevich Volkov. The Russians invented them during interrogation, but they're the only ones who might confirm my story. Sometimes I imagine I hear them whisper back, just the Texas wind through the screen door maybe, or the AC kicking on. But in that moment between sleep and waking, their voices sound as real as the psychiatrist's pen stopping mid-sentence.